So this is the third edition of This Morning, Monday, the 9th of November 2020. And we are doing a kind of short look at the situation in relation to how to get rid of the swamp in Washington, D.C. Trump had said that he was going to deal with the swamp, which is how he described the Obama and previous administrations. It needs hardly any description to show that he became the swamp. And the line is continuing about the need to heal the USA. And it is shown in the pictures. The Guardian is running. People are saying that it's incredible. Euphoria in cities across America after Biden win. And the streets are absolutely crowded with people celebrating. There's a picture of the squad member Alexandria. Is it Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? The New York representative said the Democrats lacked core competencies. She is also seen in the demonstration. And there are absolutely no shortage of photographs, including a picture of the climate campaigner Greta Thunberg. I'm having more fun now than before I started. When your life gets meaning, you become happy. And she is having a go at, obviously, Trump. And the front page of The Guardian, Biden gets to work as Trump fumes. And there is a piece on the right-hand side where it says, the prospect of global green recovery from the coronavirus pandemic is hanging in the balance as countries pour money into the fossil fuel economy to stave off a devastating recession. An analysis for The Guardian reveals. And here is the picture of Biden. Let's see who they are. Joe Biden and family watch fireworks after the president-elect's address to the nation in Wilmington, Delaware. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 faces. And they're all faces of white people. Whether they're all members of his family is not cleared in the caption. Now, Johnson is compared with Marcus Rashford's campaign for free school meals. And Johnson has been described as giving in, staging another U-turn. And it's almost 400 million pounds that Johnson reportedly has allocated now to providing the free school meals to poor children. And these pictures are absolutely legitimate and called for. So that's the Guardian doing a few kind of itsy bitsy pieces about the virus and the impact on the economy, and the reports about the concerns of consumers. Coronavirus recovery plans threaten global climate rescue plan, and also tens of thousands made homeless despite eviction ban during crisis. This is a piece on the Guardian by Sarah. What page is it on? So page 14 of the Guardian, and it's by Sarah Marsh and Amy Walker, and it's talking about the homeless charity Center Point and the homeless charity Glass Door, and the charities are the ones that are being mainly cited as the source of the or sources of this item. Tens of thousands made homeless despite eviction ban during crisis. And it says that the data comes from a Freedom of Information request replied to by 204 councils, which showed 36,359 people threatened with homelessness since the pandemic started. Data also showed 6,184 were served Section 21 notices, and 46,000, where is that one? 46,894 came to councils saying this 46,894 people said to the councils saying they were already homeless. And Karen Buck, the Labour MP for Westminster North, said there have been some illegal evictions which are being desperately underreported. We'll be talking about that in a minute. I mean, that concept of illegal evictions. And here is a revived from the dead, political death, Thangam Debonair. So Thangam Debonair said the Prime Minister's order to stay at home will feel particularly hollow for people without a home, without anywhere to call home. Government minister said that progress in March was an opportunity to end rough sleeping for good. But it looks like these gains have been lost. Oh, sure, fucking shit. All right, so Thangam Debonair, the shadow housing secretary, this is the online Guardian said, the Prime Minister's order to stay at home will feel particularly hollow for people without anywhere to call home. Government ministers said that progress in March was an opportunity to end rough sleeping for good. But it looks like these gains have been lost. The government has announced an extra 15 million to support people rough sleeping, which John Sparks of the Charity Crisis said was welcome but does not go far enough and addresses just one part of the problem. He said, we appeal to the UK government to give local councils clear instruction and sufficient funding to ensure everyone is in safe and self-contained accommodation, and in doing so build on the significant progress made this year in ending homelessness for good. A Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government spokesperson said, this week we confirmed that bailiff enforcement action will not be permitted during the national restrictions or over the Christmas period, except in the most serious eviction cases such as those involving antisocial behavior. This builds on existing protections, including 6-month notice period and new court rules, meaning judges will prioritize most serious of cases. We have also taken action to prevent people getting into financial hardship by helping businesses to pay salaries, extending furlough scheme, and boosting the welfare safety net by over 9 billion. Now, this 9 billion is the one that we shall start with. Who is getting the 9 billion and through what means and what channel and over what period of time? The role of the councils, of course, is at the center of our diagnosis, but the role of the central government in relation to the councils is also part of the diagnosis, and the role of the courts as well. We have been making very clear that the county courts are a major source of homelessness because the county courts have been issuing eviction notices, granting eviction applications with the flimsiest of grounds and without any kind of real assessment of the reality of the circumstances of the people being targeted for evictions. So What we have to say is only based on evidence, not on conjecture. And this item in the Guardian today, both online and the print version, doesn't make it any different from what the Guardian's kind of sister publication, The Observer, carried from Barbara Ellen. She and the Guardian are scratching at the surface, and they're not actually acknowledging the real truth of the problem that has been created. And the financial problems that the Ministry of Housing, that is Robert Jenrick's department, is saying is a false statement. That statement is false and misleading because there is no evidence on the ground that the welfare safety has been changed. The kind of absence of welfare safety, if you like, has been made any different. And this is the kind of evidence we are going on. So let's look at the behavior of Tower Hamlets Council in creating homelessness. Tower Hamlets Council entered into a partnership with the Salvation Army. Now, the Salvation Army had a prominent building called the Booth House in Whitechapel Road, sited almost opposite where the East London Mosque is. And the Booth House was operating as an agency of bailiffs, extracting rent from the residents who were there as homeless people. And the rent was being extracted from the money that the residents were getting from the DWP as their kind of benefit. And the details of the communications exchanged between the Salvation Army and the Tower Hamlets Council's homeless kind of section, fronted by Colin Cormack, the criminal, confirm that their main arguments and their main issues were about how much money each of them was being able to grab. There is no mention of the welfare or well-being of the homeless people staying at the Salvation Army. And the evidence is in the emails that can be accessed now. Let's see. So we shall be accessing the emails in due course. If this computer doesn't kind of work fast enough, we'll have to do it in another edition. So essentially, what is happening here so the Tower Hamlets Council Let's look at the list again in Tower Hamlets, and then we shall go to Newham. Tower Hamlets Council was working in collusion with the Royal London Hospital, and the list of colluders in creating homelessness then included the newly set up conspiracy to deny people of housing human rights called Tower Hamlets Community Housing and Popular Haque. And added to that was the newly degenerate kind of structure of the Spitalfields Housing Association. It had been set up as the Spitalfields Housing Cooperative. But over the period of the decades since it was founded at the beginning of the 1980s, so the 90s, so it's like 30 years, 30 plus years of the Spitalfield housing. And it was originally set up as one of the results of the campaign against racism and a campaign against the discrimination in housing that began to be mobilized in the 70s. And the idea was that the discrimination that in the area of Brick Lane, in the neighborhood of Brick Lane, Whitechapel, where the Bangladeshis mainly kind of settled at the beginning, that the discrimination in public housing and housing generally that the Bangladeshis were suffering from would be specifically addressed and alleviated by the establishment of the Spitalfield Housing Co-op. So it turned out that as a result of that kind of purpose, the majority of almost all the management committee members of the Spitalfield Housing Co-op were Bangladeshis. But as we discussed earlier in relation to the black-on-black crime and the murder of the schoolboy, Langdon Park schoolboy, Bangladeshi schoolboy by Bangladeshi youngsters or gang of criminals, and the deployment of the racist by the racist Mike Tyrrell of Bangladeshi gang of criminals on the Ashington House building. All of these are related to creating housing crisis. So when the Guardian says that the money given to the councils is not enough and the councils need more money, it is committing multiple crimes in that lying. The Guardian is doing that because the Guardian has been continuing to promote the cause of acting as a lobby for the local councils. And there is no room in the Guardian or the Observer for scrutinizing how the money that the councils kind of plead for, bid for, and lobby for gets allocated. Number one, there is the money, central money. And this morning, they are talking about the money related to the rough sleeping aspect of the homelessness. There is no mention in the Barbara Allen piece in the Observer or the Guardian on print or online today, Monday, the 9th of November 2020. There is no mention of the overall housing policy, overall housing stock, empty stock. And there is no mention of the corruption, the mental attitude, criminal mental attitude on the part of the decision makers in the chain of housing related kind of duties and obligations of the councils. For example, housing benefit, local housing allowance, and the role that Steve Hill has been playing in creating arrears and attaching those arrears against targeted tenants so that the tenants can be harassed and evicted and made homeless. So when Karen Buck talks about underreporting, because she is quoted online in The Guardian or The Guardian in print version, that she is saying that a lot of illegal evictions have taken place and this is being underreported. She is touching the iceberg. The depth of housing crisis is so phenomenal that when measured, its impact directly and in the following years after the impact begins can be measured in terms of losses to the victims and targets of housing human rights removal and denial in the tunes of billions, hundreds of billions of pounds or trillions of pounds. Let's see what Karen Buck, the Westminster North MP for the Labour Party, is doing. If she is on the record on her own account about this issue. Now she has got her latest tweet is a retweet from Paul Johnson, and it's not about the homelessness or eviction. And the one before that, 14 hours ago, Queen's Park leaves, that is tree leaves in dusky autumn light. And then Karen Buck says 14 hours ago, this is the one about the evictions. She says in her tweet linking to the article in The Guardian online, so many factors driving this: household pressures in lockdown, loss of income, illegal evictions, people not knowing their rights. We can solve homelessness, but action needed on all these fronts. And she then tweets to Thangam Debonair and says that she and Thangam Debonair are both quoted in this piece. Oh, 629. We have just tweeted to Karen Buck just now. And in the tweet, we've just said at time, the time being 06:29 GMT, that the points that she makes are noted, but the solutions, whatever she has said, do not go anywhere near enough action that need to be taken to end all the housing losses of housing human rights. Now, in the list that we shall be sending later, today, Monday, the 9th of November 2022, to Karen P. Buck, MP, will be included the following. What exactly does she mean by actions? Does she mean actions that are a jumbled up list of itsy bitsy things that councils do and charities do? Does she understand that the role of the county courts and the courts that are dealing with the eviction applications is crucial, in that most of the courts are giving and have been giving for years straightforward kind of eviction orders in favor of the applicant, either council or so-called social landlords or private landlords. What, in her opinion, and in her experience of Westminster North, are the main factors that are avoidable, solvable, and can be resolved by action by the local councils, which are central to the creation of homelessness in her constituency, for example, because that's where she can be expected to know the most evidence. Does she believe that the Labour Party in Parliament has got a comprehensive position on all aspects of housing human rights? If she believes, will she publish that list? If she doesn't believe, why isn't she moving for detailed, descriptive kind of demands about what exactly needs to be taken as actions? Does she agree? Does Karen P. Buck, MP, North Westminster North, agree that the role of the local councils is the central role in creating homelessness? Does she agree that all the councils in London have enough empty properties? Does she agree that the issue of homelessness has not been raised in terms of evidence or in terms of the political pressure by the Labour Party, either currently under Keir Starmer or for the last 5 years under Jeremy Corbyn, or before Corbyn during Ed Miliband's years? And if she believes that loss of housing human rights is a serious loss that destroys lives, why isn't she making a comprehensive, urgent list of demands for ending that kind of loss of housing human rights for good? And I don't believe that Karen P. Buck will agree that councils are responsible for creating homelessness, because she is, after all, a member of parliament. And although she is not a member of parliament in an area that has the council under Labour Party control, but it can be turned into a Labour Party controlled council in Westminster. It used to be in the past many times, but the point is that she would not be openly coming out against the agenda of not wanting accountability by the councils. And this is a mirror situation that is actually reflected in the fact that Marcus Rashford, a 22-year-old footballer, has been able to raise a campaign against children being left without free school meals, and he has succeeded now. How does Karen P. Buck explain that the Labour Party didn't take the initiative? It was the non-MP 22-year-old footballer. In context and in comparison with the role that Marcus Rashford has played, what are the qualities that the MPs have? And what are the contributions they are making that justifies their being members of parliament? Apart from following what is called the whip and voting as commanded, what are the MPs, Labour Party MPs, doing? What have they been doing in the main in the last 1 year? Well, the last nearly 1 year, let's say, since the 12th of December disaster. And what are the prognosis on the crisis? And what are her priorities about housing, human rights, and associated factors that contribute to the creation of homelessness and loss of housing? And how does she see the relevance of racism in the decision making? And what does she think council should be made to do in terms of justifying evidence-based ways how they make decisions that affect people's housing, human rights? Where in the system of the county courts and the other courts does she think the platform or the avenue within the English judiciary where the victims of judicial abuse and judicial racism can go and seek remedies without having to go to the High Court and seek permission to bring a judicial review, which can take the kind of rest of their lives? What does she think of the local government ombudsman? What does she think of Ofcom? What does she think of the Banking Financial Conduct Authority? What does she think of the other regulators, including the legal ombudsman and the Solicitors Regulation Authority? Where can people go to seek remedies against the injustice and the racist obstruction and denial of access to the legal process that is meted out against people based on the people's race, ethnicity, or faith perceptions? Does Karen Buck accept that it is a fact that the UK government, UK Parliament, UK judiciary, UK academic institutions, UK political parties, including the Labour Party, are all currently treating the UK's signed up status on the dozens of international organizations, declarations, conventions, charters, and agreements with contempt? Does she believe that these agreements are essential, central, constitutional legal tools with which to seek to uphold universal human rights as against the UK state and against the UK big business and agencies? So these are some of the questions that we are going to send to Karen P. Buck later today.